The Mac Jones era is over in New England, giving up a sixth-round pick, the Jacksonville Jaguars, to have a solidified backup in Mac Jones. What was your first initial thoughts on this move?
The first initial thought I had about this move was, first of all, it's crazy that there were four teams in the mix for Mac Jones, and the Jaguars decided to outbid them with a sixth-round pick. And we already did our Jacksonville Jaguars offseason preview, and I said, you know what the Jacksonville Jaguars needs is dogs all over their team. They need that dog vaccination because I didn't see it anywhere last year. You completely fell apart when you could have just coasted to the #1 seed. And then your solution to that is bringing in Mac Jones, someone who is in the same draft class as Trevor Lawrence, someone at Alabama who probably felt slighted that Trevor Lawrence was talked about more highly than he does. How is that going to work when you have two guys on the same team from the same draft that competed in college against each other? So Mac Jones is going to be in his head like, oh, I'm an equal to Trevor Lawrence. And every situation and every article coming out of New England has said Mac Jones isn't the best locker room presence. And it's not like he's a guy who's just going to sit there and coast. I get it. Trevor Lawrence had injury issues last year. But when you're talking about a team who needs really a mentor for Trevor Lawrence, someone more like a Nick Foles or Gardner Minshew, not someone who played with him in college, who's going to have in the back of my mind, like, I think I was on the same level as this guy in college and could legitimately compete with him and take his job, where Trevor Lawrence is clearly above him. And then it's also like, you need to add leadership, you need to add mentors, and you need to add dogs. And most importantly, you need to fucking sell tickets because no one wants to go see a Jacksonville Jaguars game in Jacksonville. People only move there to extend their retirement money because there's no state income tax there. So if you didn't have the biggest IRA, they're like, oh, guess I'll move to Jacksonville. Florida, it's cheap to live there, low state income tax. So it's a bunch of old people that don't want to go see football games anymore.
And they also don't want to socialize either.
No.
But luckily for the Jaguars fans, if they were to make it to there and have that 25% occupancy, they'd be able to grace their eyes with Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, Travis Etienne, Christian Kirk, and now Gabe Davis, friend of the show, allegedly.
Enemy of the show.
Enemy of the show. 3 years, $50 million. And when I saw this deal, I immediately just laughed. I'm like, are you kidding me? Because you talked about your dog vaccination, and their first two moves of the offseason, when they need an alpha in the room, they signed Mac Jones, Mac Lamore Jones, and then they signed Gabe Davis, who is an enemy of the show. We have ripped him time and time again because we think that he is one of the most overrated wide receivers in the NFL. Based on the playoff game with the Chiefs a few years ago, he had that 4-touchdown game, and ever since, everyone thought of him as a number 2. Well, now he's a number 2 to Christian Kirk. He should be a number 3 somewhere. I guess my prediction of him going to the Panthers did not pan out, but the night is still young. They will sign somebody and overpay for them. I promise you that. Gabe Davis to the Jaguars.
Yeah, Gabe Davis to the Jaguars as well. And this is another thing I said. It's like, you need to get a dog in the room, not someone that you can take a coin, flip it, and that's the odds that he has of catching a pass in the NFL as a receiver making $50 million to pay a game there. Then everyone's like, oh, well, Gabe Davis had 4 receiving touchdowns in a game against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. And I say, so did Chris Hogan at one point in his career. I've seen many guys who aren't elite receivers have magical games. Gabe Davis has never had an 1,000-yard receiving season in the NFL. And then you're making Christian Kirk, who is a good, really, really, really good 2 as your number 1 receiver now. You whiffed on Calvin Ridley. You had drop problems with receivers. You had spatial awareness where they weren't catching touchdowns because they weren't aware where their feet were. And now you add Gabe Davis to the mix. Please go Google a compilation of Jaguars receivers stepping out of bounds or dropping passes last year, and not all of it was on Trevor Lawrence. Sometimes he's just hitting guys in the hands. They're flat out dropping it. And your solution to that is Gabe Davis, who you can flip a coin and decide if he's going to catch it or not. Like, what are we doing?